Hello there and welcome to Friday Night Fairy Tale with me, Violet Forget-Me-Not. Now the story we're going to read this evening is called The Prince and the Emperor's Daughter. So, if you're sitting comfortably, then I'll begin. There was once a prince who had a very small kingdom. This meant that for a prince he was very poor. After a time he made up his mind to marry, and being exceedingly handsome, there were quite a number of pretty princesses who would like to have been his wife. None, however, was as pretty as the emperor's only daughter. Now the prince was too poor to send costly gifts to the emperor's palace, but he said to himself, "I will send the two things I value most in the world, my precious rosebush and my own singing nightingale." The rosebush bloomed only once in 5 years, and whoever smelt the scent of the single red rose became instantly happy. The nightingale sang the sweetest melody of all songs in all the world, and those who heard it thought that they were in heaven. Certain that the emperor's daughter would welcome these two wonderful gifts, the prince put them in silver boxes and addressed them to the princess. The day they arrived, the emperor himself received them and took them into the marble hall, where the princess was playing snap with her maids of honour. When she saw the boxes, she clapped her hands. "I hope there is a little white pussycat in one," she cried, "and a long-eared puppy in the other." But oh dear me, when the first silver box was opened, there was a rosebush with a single red rose. All the court ladies said how pretty the rose was and what a wonderful perfume it had. But the princess would scarcely look at it. "Is it real?" she asked. "Indeed it is," said one of her maids of honour. "It is the most beautiful rose I have ever seen." "Oh, take it away at once," stormed the princess, stamping her tiny foot in its embroidered slipper. "I hate real flowers. Their petals fall off and they die. It's a horrible present." The emperor looked at his daughter sadly. "How spoilt she is," he thought. "All her life she has had everything she asked for, and now nothing pleases her." Then he opened the second box. The little brown nightingale began at once to sing its charming melody of songs as the emperor placed its silver cage on the table. "Beautiful, quite entrancing," cried the court ladies as they listened. But the spoilt princess asked, "Is it a mechanical bird, one I can wind up when I want to?" No, it is a real bird," her youngest maid of honour told her, "and that makes it all the more wonderful. Who would want a toy nightingale instead of a real one, particularly when it sings like this?" "I would," cried the princess, stamping her foot once again. "I don't want it and I won't have it." And she picked up the silver cage and ran to the window. "Oh, let me have it, please," said the youngest maid of honour, who was also the boldest. But the princess opened the cage and threw the bird into the air. "Go back to your master," she called after it as it flew away. "Tell him that should he dare to come to my father's palace, I most certainly will not see him." News of how the princess had received his precious gift was soon brought to the prince. "If the princess will not see me as I am," he said, "I will go to the palace disguised as a swineherd." So the prince put on shabby patched clothes and pulled a battered old hat down over his face. Then off he went to the emperor's palace. "It happens that we do need a swineherd to take care of the pigs," said the head steward when the prince spoke to him in the imperial gardens. "The job is yours if you care to take it." "I'll do my best," said the false swineherd. So the prince was appointed the emperor's swineherd. He was given a miserable hut to sleep in and 100 pigs to look after. The work was hard and dirty, but the new swineherd went about it cheerfully, and in his spare time he would sit outside his hut making a little pot with bells all around it. When it was finished, he built a small fire and placed the pot on top. Then he filled it with water. As soon as the water began to boil, the bells rang out in a very pretty way and played an old tune. Now one day the princess was out walking with her maids of honour. Suddenly she heard the sound of one of her favourite tunes, and it sounded so pretty that she sent one of her court ladies to the swineherd to ask for the pot. "Ask him how much he wants for it," she said. "Tell him the princess desires to have it." The court lady was soon back. "I scarcely dare to tell you what the impudent wretch said," she confessed, almost in tears. "He will not sell his pot for money. He wants 10 kisses from you." The princess was so surprised that she forgot to show the anger which would have been proper in a true lady. "What a rude fellow that swineherd must be," she said at last. "Of course a princess should not think of such things," she broke off, as the pot once again began to tinkle merrily. "But, well, yes, I will give him 10 kisses if that is the only way I can get the pot." So the proud, spoilt princess went to the swineherd, and all her maids of honour stood around the pair so that no passer-by would see the emperor's daughter kissing a swineherd. The very next week the princess came across the swineherd once again. He had made a rattle that played all the waltzes and polkas and merry jigs imaginable whenever he swung it. As he walked along, he swung his rattle, and the music it made set the court ladies accompanying the princess dancing and hopping. "I'll have that rattle," said the princess, whose own dainty little feet were tapping the ground. "It will amuse me in the evenings, and is much better than any of my musical boxes." "Shall I ask him what he wants for it?" whispered the youngest maid of honour. "Yes, do that," said the princess. The youngest maid of honour came back to her mistress with flushed cheeks and bright eyes. "I do not know how to tell you what he said," she confessed. "Something dreadful. He says you must give him 100 kisses for the musical rattle." "Indeed I will not," said the princess. "The impudent fellow has gone too far." But as she spoke, the swineherd swung his rattle, and all her maids of honour began jigging up and down in time to its merry tune. "Yet it is a truly marvellous rattle," she went on. "Yes, I will pay the price, but all of you must gather round and spread out your skirts so that no one sees the emperor's daughter kissing her father's pigman." Then the princess went up to the swineherd, and all the ladies of the court gathered round the pair and spread out their dresses. Meanwhile, as the princess began kissing the swineherd, who was really a prince, her father stepped out on the balcony. He rubbed his eyes and put on his spectacles. "Now what are those maids of honour up to?" he asked himself. "What new tricks are they playing?" And he pushed his feet firmly into his slippers and hurried down to the courtyard. He hurried so much that he was quite out of breath, but in his soft slippers he made no sound, and the maids of honour were too busy counting the kisses to notice him. Then the emperor stood on tiptoe and was so shocked at what he saw that he took off one of his slippers and began hitting the court ladies on the head. "Be off with you," he shouted, for he was very angry. "Be off with you." Then the emperor saw what he must do if he were to bring his daughter to her senses. "I forbid you to return to the palace," he said. "You are not fit to be a princess." Of course the swineherd too was sent away, and outside the palace gates he began to scold the spoilt princess, telling her that he had lost a good job all because of her. And the princess began to weep and wish that she had never been born. "Oh, how silly I am," she sobbed. "I could have married a handsome prince, but I wouldn't even see him because he sent me stupid presents." The swineherd left her sitting under a tree, crying her eyes out in the rain. Quickly he returned to his hut, washed the brown stains off his face and threw away his rags. Then he dressed himself in a fine velvet suit, and looking every inch a royal prince, even though his kingdom was very small, he returned to the weeping princess. At the sight of the tall, handsome young man, the princess dried her eyes and began to smile. "I don't know who you are," she said, "but you look like a prince, and I hope you will take me to your palace." "That I will never do," said the prince. "You would not accept my gifts. You did not value the rose and the nightingale that I sent you. You would not even see me. Yet, for a pot with bells on it and a musical rattle, you were quite willing to kiss a swineherd. I was that swineherd, and now I know that you are the most spoilt princess in the whole world." Then the prince went back to his own very small kingdom, and in time he married a princess who was just as pretty as the emperor's daughter, and not in the least bit spoilt. The end. Well, thank you very much for listening. Hope to see you again soon. Take care and stay safe. Bye.